Hi everyone, welcome, welcome. How are you?
I am doing great. Doing Donna.
I'm doing good. Thank you for asking. It's super fun to have you here. As you guys know, this is our podcast, Approaching Your Future. So welcome, welcome. As per usual, we're going to start with the introduction. Welcome to Approaching Your Future with your hosts Dana Khan and Victor Ribeiro, where we take steps forward towards your goals. And today we'll be discussing mental health as an international student, which is a really important topic, especially for international students that are here studying from and their home countries far away, and they're here studying far away from their families. This is a very important topic. I think this actually relates to a lot of people in the US. So let's get into it. V, what can you share with me a bit about mental health and international student and that connection?
Sure. I think one of the first things that comes to my mind when we're talking about mental health is of the importance of it because mental health is just as important as physical health. And in a way, if you don't have a good mental health, how are you going to actually be able to manage your physical health, right? Even more as an international student. So, in my opinion, a lot of people don't have attention and look at it enough to understand that this is an actual problem and that a lot of international students and non-international students might be facing and they don't know or they know. So it's definitely a very interesting set to talk about even more because I think we were international students one day, so we have a lot to share.
I definitely agree. I definitely agree, V. And I think that I guess for international students, I guess there's a couple of things I would need to understand. When we come to the US, we are kind of displacing ourselves or getting displaced from our home situation. And we have to, as we say here at Approach, build a home away from home, wherever it is that you are. So that's like the first thing that I guess brings our attention to mental health as an international student, because that 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 change, that switch into moving into a new country, that transition to being in a new environment with new people, with a new language, it's a big transition, and it really is a big transition for international students and just anyone who comes to the U.S. from abroad. It really is a culture shock, and I think that it's important to understand that you can be hard on yourself when you're going through this transition. It's a transition that's going to take time, you know.
Yeah, the things that is really good to mention. I guess that was one of the first I learned as an international student. Um, I when I first came here, I was just a high school exchange student. The term homesickness was always seen as a real thing, you know, and a lot of people don't really understand what homesickness is, and they think it's just that you're missing your home country, when it's actually much more than that. It's a feeling of nostalgia that is just fearful when you're feeling homesick in a way, and sometimes it's not just fearful, but it is a feeling that is way more than just missing something or someone. So those things keep in mind that when you're an international and you leave your country, you will feel homesick. Even more if you're in a completely different environment and you're noticing the changes and you're comparing to your home country. One of the first that might come to your head, it's like I'm not gonna be able to pull through it. I'm not gonna be able to make it. This is too, or kind of like, oh my gosh, how am I gonna do this? And these questions sometimes they have answers, but when we're really stressed, when we're feeling homesick, we don't see that it's a form of anxiety. That's one of the things that I wanted out. Those fears and those feelings of homesickness, a lot of times need to have a good attention to it because they are indicators of a beginning of an actual anxiety for being far away from your family, or even a type of depression. Depending on how badly this feeling affects you. So I wanted to bring this up, Dana, because like I feel like a lot of people homesickness enough. Have you ever heard about that term? Like, how was your experience coming to the United States and actually feeling homesick, or having your friends talking about homesick?
Yeah, I think that's a big experience to everyone that comes here as an international student. And I think that, I personally had a lot of homesickness when moving here. I also had a lot of, because I've lived in a few other countries, and what happens is it's like a form of homesickness, but more like people sickness, or like the people that you leave behind, and where you go. And it tends to, usually what tends to really like make me feel homesick is the culture I come into contact with, you know? Like, I remember the first few months of being in the US, I loved being here, but I just missed my parents, and I missed the how comfortable it was to live at home, and to have everything that I needed there, and to be taken care of. And then I come here, and I'm by myself in this new country, making new friends. And while for me it's always very exciting, I definitely felt the first few months that tug in your heart where you're like, I don't know, I just kind of want to go back home and be with my parents, you know? And I think it's very evident. I think we've all felt it because, if I'm not mistaken, V, you came here even younger than I did, right?
Yeah, that's right. And you said it like really nicely. It is that feeling of like missing a lot of times the people you left behind. And that's kind of like how you can tell if your homesickness is more related to something that will bring you down, which could be more of an anxiety, not anxiety, depression, or something that just will make you very fearful of the future. Where like your dream has always been the US, and you start homesick, and you suddenly start like having all these thoughts of like, am I really able to do it? And then nation having self-awareness, so those things will help you go through it, because then you know you're actually missing, and how to access. But there are a lot of things that you should and you shouldn't do, right? um I always recommend my friends, when they're going to if they're going to study abroad in whatever country they go, it's really not good to keep too close to your family when you're far away from them. When you're in another country, you really need to live that experience. You need to detach yourself, because what really causes these feelings is when you one place half the other place, and you can't be humanly. That's not possible. You can't keep your mind back in your country while you're not in your country, because your life is actually happening somewhere else. So those things that can really help you not overthinking, not giving too much attention to these feelings of sadness sometimes, or even feelings of anxiety, of fearing the future, of fearing if you'll be strong enough or if you're good enough to make it. And the fact that you care, it means that you can get there. So I will leave this a few 5 cents here in terms of self-awareness. It's very important to know where your pain is coming from. Is it from the future or from the past?
I love that, B. I think that's a great point, actually. And to be able to be self-aware and exactly identify if what you're scared of is what's to come. I mean, if you're scared of the future, you're scared of uncertainty. You're scared of not having control over what's going to happen. And if you're scared of the past, you're dealing with traumas that have happened in the past and how they have influenced the way that you see the world now. So I think that, yes, self-awareness is probably the most important step to being mentally healthy, and especially as an international student. And for example, I remember personally, I think there's a few steps to being able to be aware, self-aware, and take care of your mental health as an international student. The first step, of course, is understanding that you're feeling homesick, or why you're feeling homesick, or why you feel like you need to go back. The many times I've come into, and I was an RA during my years in college, which meant that I had to deal with lots of incoming freshmen and kind of help them navigate their stay in college. And when students feel homesick and they want to go back home, you tend to ask them why, like why is it that you feel homesick? Is it because you're more comfortable? Is it out of fear of being alone? Is it out of fear of not achieving what you want to achieve? Is it, and then we try to understand how we can help them navigate it in a better way. And so you can ask those questions to yourself when you're feeling these, and see, because I think that in life we many times we come to a point where we have just two options, and not everything is black and white, but I think we tend to have two options: the one to do and the one to don't, right? So either we go ahead full force, dive into the experience of being an international student and give it a good go, or we don't. And if you don't, you just don't. and you don't get to know what's on the other side of that answer, whether it's good or bad. And so I think that that's a big thing to keep in mind when you're navigating. Of course, this relates to mental health in other ways, but I think that giving yourself the chance to fail and to explore and to fall and to stand up and to brush off your shoulders is always the best choice you can make for yourself. You know, giving yourself an opportunity. And I just wanted to add a bit more of like what we're going towards, which is the mental health of international students. The first step when you get to the US, there's a few things you can do for your mental health. But the first one, as Victor said, is be self-aware of where you stand with yourself. And then the second one, which I will let V talk a bit more about, but it's get involved in whichever community you want to get involved. I think that's the first step. Find your people, find people, period, even people that are different from you. Get to know people, you know, human contact and human touch is so important when you're getting over homesickness.
Yeah, and it's like a lot of times when people are already homesick, they tend to not really embrace that feeling or see that like a lot of times when you're struggling or when you're going through something that is not necessarily positive, it doesn't mean that it's your life that is turning to that. It just means that you're going through a tough time. And the good thing about tough times is that they teach you a lot. So it is good to embrace those moments as much as you embrace the good, because they are always teaching you something about either yourself or your experience, or who knows, sometimes even about other people that you don't know. So I think the most important is to stay very, very, very in touch with yourself, with how your experiences go, identifying if it's something from the past, from the future. Like Dana said, a lot of people, they go very hard on themselves because they're feeling this way. And at times you don't need to, because the only way that you will overcome a fear of the future is by focusing on yourself, organizing your life, because that will give you peace of mind. And if it's a fear of like, hey, like I really don't know how I'm gonna learn all this, and if I fail, don't worry, we're here to fail too, you know. And even if you're an English learner, you're gonna fail a lot. You're gonna fail every day trying to speak correct English. So if you accept that failure, it will be much easier for you to get the other things, and just look at it with the same perspective. So I really, really like to emphasize on that, Donna. And we can go more towards the other subject that you mentioned, which is more specific to what.
To getting involved in communities. But I just want to add, be like, I think that that's super important what you pointed out, because I think it's super important because as I think that not even trying is a failure in and of itself. So as Victor was saying, you guys, failure is success because that means that you tried, that you put yourself out there. If you didn't even take the chance, take the risk to try, to attempt, then you didn't even take that first step to even get the opportunity to fail, you know? So I think that failing in anything is an opportunity to learn, same as it is winning in anything or succeeding in anything, you know?
Yeah, I do think too. Totally agree with you. I think that like sometimes we tend to even more when we fail at things because we know exactly what went wrong sometimes, and it's easy to ask because we don't want that uncomfortable thing of failure happening in our lives. But of course, don't obsess over it, and be open to it, because like Donna said, it is a positive thing that you're failing at something. That means you're trying something new. So why keep yourself so stuck into thinking about the future? So many different types of fear, in terms of failing, in terms of this and that. Just work towards your goal, work towards your objective. That would definitely help you with anxiety. It's kind of like a fear of presenting to people. You don't have to over prepare, but you prepare. So that's the same thing. Apply this in a micro way. Like we see that macro and micro. How do you prepare to keep your life on like to keep yourself on top of your life, to keep everything on track, by keeping yourself always prepared, by working towards your goal, and that interferes with like the whole concept of being homesick, being an international student, and future. And one of the things that you've done, which is regarding getting involved with different communities, I guess one of the best ways to put it is thinking like when people sick because they're feeling because they're missing their friends, that's nothing else, nothing more, nothing less than just sometimes people are not looking for more friends in this new environment. And I know that sometimes my friends will not necessarily replace your family, but they will be there and they will keep you distracted and now you start noticing more of how much progress you make and how much you don't necessarily need all those people on your side all the time. You can fight and you can make your own friendships.
Exactly. I think that something that's very nice that I've learned when moving around, guys, is that wherever you go, you can build your family there and they can become your family of that place. And really, when you go to new places, you're going to find a conjunction of a mixture of families from different places that you've met at here and there, and they all come together. But that's the beauty of being open to making those friendships wherever you go, because these people, they all add to you. Nothing replaces nothing. Everything just adds to who you are and to the people you carry with you everywhere. So I think there's a beauty to it. And the other thing I was going to say is, I think that is very interesting to hear out how V classifies or classifies the way of helping his own mental health. And as you guys see, mental health is extremely subjective, guys, and we all have different ways to deal with it. And for example, Victor is a person that would like to organize or more like micro organize his life in a way so that he helps his own anxiety of homesickness. And I, on the other hand, would do the opposite. I would say, do not micromanage, because you can't control everything, and just let life happen. And so these, both of the ways that we're talking about, they're both correct. They're just different ways of internalizing what you can and want to do in your mental health, and they both can help you and ease you in different ways, you know. So I think that's the beauty of mental health. It's being able to be self-aware, to understand what you need and how you can help yourself to succeed in a new environment and in a new situation.
Exactly, and it always differs from person to person. It's like I remember I used to love biology in middle school and high school, and I remember this phrase saying like each body, each organism has its own ecosystem. Each person has its own way of living, of course, but their bodies are different. It's different. Your chemicals and like everything that happens in your brain will always be different. So you always need different outlets, different ways to solve problems. And yes, that definitely is an amazing thing about being human and having this awareness of like knowing what mental health is, how to take care of it, because that brings awareness for so many things, guys. I feel like when you take care of your mental health, you automatically start communicating better. You become more empathetic, become more understanding. You become more present, because anxiety and depression brings you to different places that are not necessarily the you're at. And feeling between your mind and the space you are is one of the first things too you need, because a lot of times these intrusive thoughts that comes with homesickness, anxiety, and depression, they're nothing else other than just your mind might be empty, or maybe your mind is not empty, but you just need to help and yourself in different ways. Of course, if you think that you ever need professional help, look for it. And here it's even more. I know that a lot of times health is really expensive, but that's not an excuse to not look for help. And many types of help that you can find, and even free access type of help. I think that we should done out in the future just one podcast just explaining how some health insurances work here in the United States, even more for international students, so they can grab insights and how they can take care of themselves after this conversation that we have. Because I do think that we might inspire people to really take it to keeping an active look into what's happening in their lives. What do you think?
I agree with you. I think that's actually a great idea, guys. So this podcast is basically an introduction into talking and understanding mental health as an international student. And then we're going to have a series of podcasts coming up with this one. The next one being exactly as Victor said, talking a bit about health insurance and how that works and how health insurance for your mental health can work in the US. So we'll definitely talk about that. But before we go, I just want to give a bit of 5 tips, 5 main things that you can do to help yourself as an international student. First and foremost, when you get into the school, whatever place you're going to go study, if it's a university or a ESL school, whichever it is, you get involved with there's a couple of things you can get involved with. First and foremost, you have to be responsive to the school outreach. If the school is reaching out to you, inviting you to events, sending emails, be responsive, be involved, answer back, because that only just that effort of trying to be a part of this community of whatever school you're joining, that makes a huge difference. The next thing I will say will be to get involved in the clubs, school activities, school jobs, programs, anything you can get involved in, get involved, because that is the best way to find people. That's how you find your friends. Try starting to get involved with different parts and organizations within the school, right, V?
Yeah, even like for example, I'm gonna give another personal example, but going to college, one of the things that always helped me making new friendship, keeping myself busy, was getting involved in different clubs, like the radio club that I think we've both been familiar with. And by saying radio club, it sounds very simple, but it's actually really complex. It's professional stuff and really stuff that you see industry things happening. You're like if you you focus on that and you keep your mind in the best places possible where you're dreaming. That's where you should be, right? Like I think that's a good way.
Exactly. And honestly, like dream far. If you want to start volunteering for projects that are bigger than you can ever even imagine, start volunteering, because that gets you far. Getting involved in anything gets you far. Volunteering in community service is also a great idea. It's a great way to get involved even with the local community of wherever you are. If you want to get more involved in the local community, that is actually, I think, in my opinion, the best way. Community service, any religious goings like church or anything of that sort, all of this type of community related activities always bring you into the community and get you involved, so that's always a plus.
Yeah, and then you mentioned a really good one. A lot of international students, even more people that comes here and they have dependents. For example, they're here for a short period of time, being 6 months or 1 year, and let's say you come with your wife, you come with your kids. You will want in which you will be able to connect with you comfortable and feel more like at home. And sometimes a church or any sort of religious space can be that for you. And we've seen that a lot. And we know how much that helps. And even if you're a religious person, you find a lot of kind people there that are not necessarily just interested in preaching. Well, so a lot of times they're in the same situation as you and connect with others. So yes, I mean tip done. I think that's one of the really good ways for people to get around and work on themselves, connect and feel human, right?
Right, V. No, I completely agree. That's exactly what I think. And I think like the final tip I will give, guys, usually schools and colleges and universities in the US, they have free counseling. They tend to have free counseling for students. They tend to have in-school counseling, advising. If you guys need any help, reach out, because that's always a great place to start. It might not be the end game, it might not be your therapist for the rest of the years, but they will definitely help you out and help you navigate at least a bit of your mind and how they can ease that anxiety that you're feeling. So definitely take advantage of all the counseling services that you can get. And there is a lot of free resources and counseling services that we can recommend you in the next podcast about mental health. And we'll make a list for you guys, because there's a lot of other free resources that can work out.
Yeah, like I personally have I've seeked help a few times. Of course, like when you're a college student or a high school student, you go through a lot of stress here. So there have been times that I'm like, hey, I think I'm so stressed that I do want to talk to someone. And at the time, I was at Emerson College, and the first thing I did was to reach out to the. I remember Emerson had a spiritual and mental
Yeah.
health related department, which guys really really cool. And that's not the college university that has it. You guys can find that in different institutions as well. But yes, like I did go and talk to someone. It did not feel weird. It was actually really good. They allow you to go a few times until they direct you to another professional, and that's what happens. I think everybody should look for any sort of help for their health, physical or not. It's never a shame to. So don't be ashamed. Don't be shy. just look for help. And even here, if you're a student at Approach, we have a lot here that genuinely cares about you. I'm one of them. But if you need, always reach out, because that's the thing, guys. We're a community. That means we're a family, and we understand each other. And we might not be, have the same connections as your father or mom, but we're here for each other, and this support counts. So that's my message.
No, exactly, V, and I agree completely. That's kind of the point of this episode in specific, guys, is to let you guys know that we're here for you and that we understand the struggles that come with being an international student, the struggles that come with carrying that weight in your mind, and we are here to help with that. We are here to talk about it, even if it's just a conversation. You guys want to rant, you want to talk to someone over the phone. We are here for that. Okay, so
Yeah.
never hesitate to reach out. We are on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on email. Like, you're welcome to even send us messages on the YouTube comment section, and we'll be happy to answer and reach out back. Okay.
Definitely, definitely, and that definitely is also like it's such a good thing to say, right? When you feel like you're in a place to really help others. So if you also others, pay forward, because you never know when you can actually change someone's day, being with a word, or a word of wisdom, an advice, anything. Just know everyone is with something, and you might not know exactly what this person is going through. You might know what you are going through. And if you're an international student, you would deal a lot with that. But just be strong. Check our next episode for this podcast, where we're going to give more tips on how to take care of your health, and at the same time, how to happy, and not miss any opportunity, because that's what happens when you're feeling positive, when you bring positivity to your life. Opportunities will come. You would be even happier. So here are my 5 cents, hoping to add up to $1, and looking forward to the next episode.
Exactly, guys. So thank you, V. That was great. And we love those $1 little cents, little thoughts. I think they're always great.
I mean, I'll try not to give out my whole wallet, but knowing
Knowing my
myself, I would.
I love that. But yeah, guys, these are just a few tips to better your own mental health and to be aware of what's going on in your mind and what you're feeling. Apart from that, always go outdoors. I think that's the final one of our tips. Going outdoors, even if it's a small tip, just to go and just breathe the clean air. It just makes a difference. It really does. Being in contact with the ground, with the environment, it makes a complete difference, guys. So that was the final thing I was going to add before we go. But that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to Approaching Your Future with your hosts, Dana and Victor, where we discuss different cultural aspects of life in the United States. And we're going to be back next Tuesday at 2 p.m. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn your notifications on. And make sure to follow us on Instagram, approach_USA, to keep up with all the latest updates, our new content, and our really cool activities that are going on. And we'll be back with another mental health podcast soon. So definitely stay tuned for that.
Exactly, everyone. Just thank you so much. Thank you for listening, and make sure to apply these advices in your life. Reflect a bit on what we said. Let it simmer. Bring us questions, and just know we are here, and we know how it is. We know it's a lot. We know it's a lot. So, anything, you can count on us. Count on us. See you next week, and keep your eyes and ears open for what's coming next.
Love that. Bye bye, guys. Thank you.